Hey you guys, look at this beautiful bubble. I've changed my recipe and I think I love it. I haven't baked with it yet. I'm about to. I don't know why I was holding. I found the wrong way, as usual. Y'all know I'm struggling. It's a struggle for me for some reason. Anyway, we're going to roll this out. And bake it. And I hate when people put my stuff away. Because I don't. My sourdough stuff don't belong over here in these other drawers. They belong in the Hoosier cabinet. I just roasted up some garlic. I wanted to make some garlic and rosemary, but I don't know that I have any more dehydrated rosemary. Okay, so I got my little microphone out. So maybe y'all can hear me. And I made this with unbleached organic bread flour, 50% of it, and 50% hard red wheat. I did just use bread flour, and then I bought my meal, and I was like, well, I need to start using just whole grains, because it's so much healthier for you. But organic and bleached bread flour is not unhealthy. You're just not getting a lot of benefits out of it because it's been processed. I never can tell if that's even enough, and most of the time it don't matter. But today we'll weigh it and see what we're doing. Just a little bit more on this side. See, I would have thought this side had more. And what we're going to do, instead of putting our inclusions in it right now, we're just going to do our first roll and let it rest. And then we'll come back and do our inclusions. I don't know that I want to do inclusions on both. Jean likes to have just a plain roll to do French toast with. You can tell this has got whole grain, mainly by the color. The texture feels so much better than the 100% whole grain. That's a little rough. Wasn't as fun to work with. Not as pretty. I don't know that it tasted bad. It was just really sour. But on this recipe, it called for 104 grams of starter instead of 250. So I think that's going to make a difference in the tartness also. Okay, now let's preheat our oven. 500 degrees. Get any residual stuff out of there that where I baked last time. Depends on what you bake. If you have stuff stick in the bottom. And I'll be glad when I get my new ovens put in, my double ovens. They'll have the retractable, whatever those are called, racks. I forget what they call them. It's like telescopic racks. I don't know. Anyways, I think they'll be so much better. All right, when that gets done, ready to go in, and I start to do my inclusions, I'll come back on. Okay, you guys, we're going to try our hand at this TikTok shredder. Which I haven't used yet, so I gotta see how you pop these things out. Okay. And I'm gonna say some of these. Jane bought some jalapeno cheddar cheese, so we're gonna shred some of that up to go into our sourdough bread today. Y'all know me, I like to shop on the TikTok shop. If I see something interesting, I'm like, oh, let's see if this works. That's really not how that plays out. It's more like, oh, it's midnight. Let's scroll. Have a glass or 3 of wine. And then in 3 weeks, when it gets here off the slow boat from China, I'm like, when did I order that? That's how that works. Okay. So we're just going to shove this in here. Ooh. Okay, first of all, the section ain't sectioning on this counter. Uh-oh, that ain't good. Probably maybe because it had flour on it. And I need a bowl, don't I? Ah! Y'all, this is making me mad. I need to get a cutting board out and see if it'll stick to that. Let's try that. I got my garlic roasted. I chop my garlic, I should say, and freeze it in little, like the smallest scoop. And then I put it in gallon size freezer bags. And so whenever I need a little bit of garlic, I'll just grab a few pieces out. Nope, I ain't sticking to this either. So here's your tutorial for the day. You probably don't want to buy this piece of equipment. I'm looking at the, what is that mixer? Cartism? A car, Anchorsome. I'll get it right in a minute. I'm looking at the Anchorsome shredder or mixer, and it's got the cheese shredder on it. Anyway, we're just going to try to do this without it sectioning. And as you can see, it's pretty difficult to do. That'll probably be enough because I've got some mixed in here already. Mix it together. I like to buy blocks of cheese and shred it myself. Okay, well, so much for you, little shredder. And you see these have flattened out some. We let them rest for a minute. My oven is preheated, ready to go. We're not going to stretch it out all the way because you don't want to get rid of the air that's already built up inside of it. It smells like it's going to be amazing. This is probably going to be my favorite recipe. You can see the air still, so it's very, very healthy and fluffy and ready to go. I got some rosemary chopped up. And I have some garlic roasted. This is what I froze, and I just let it thaw out overnight, and then I roasted it this morning and let it cool down before I put it in here. So y'all can see how I do this. I hope you can see it. I hope the angle of the camera is right. I always try to keep everything in there because it falls out. That's okay. Still getting it in. Then I bring this other part over, and I just put some more stuff up here, and then we'll roll it up. As best we can. Try to throw that all back in there. It is. It feels so good. You can tell if you've baked a while the texture of your dough. The last batch I made, I wasn't happy with that. So that's why I'm on a mission. And I was gone for a week. I left my starter in the refrigerator. Came home and fed her twice, and him, not her, him, I say her all the time, but it's Bjorn. And he was ready to go. You can do this a number of ways. I could have took it out last night late out of the refrigerator, went ahead and rolled it, put my inclusions in it, and let it sit in the refrigerator overnight, and then it would have been ready to bake today, but I didn't do that. So there we are. So you don't have to follow all the rules exactly. Just do what you can do when you can do it. Don't worry about it. I went to the funeral home last night. I got to go to the funeral today. So that's why I've got this on my head, and my makeup's about half on, and I've got to run out to feed the farm and then come back in here and finish getting ready so I can go on it to the funeral home, to the church, actually. I'm just going to meet them at the church. I may not. I may do the funeral procession. I never said that right. I like to curl it in as I go on the sides, so you can try to hold everything in there. And then you just put some tension in your ball. And we're going to go straight from the countertop into the oven because I don't have time to go back in the fridge, because it takes about 40 minutes to bake. You do 10 and then score it again, and then you do 20, then you take the lid off, and then you do 10 to 15 minutes more. So the score is probably not going to be as good on this as I'd like, but that's okay too. Don't have to be a masterpiece. It just has to taste good. Okay. And this is rice flour, so that way you're not adding more and more and more flour to it and it gets dry. I know most people don't say flour. I say flour, and I'm trying to not say it, but guess what? It is in my DNA. So now I got to find my little scorer. I love when I make videos. My dogs are like, "Who's here?" They're like, "Who are you talking to? Am I missing something?" They're not, nobody's here, guys. It's just us. I use these little silicone mats. It does okay. They don't burn as bad on the bottom. So you do you, boo. You do what you like. I do what I like. And you can score it. Make pretty little things. Whatever. I don't bother with it. Woo. My lash girl says that this is why my eyelashes don't stay on, because I bake. Melts them off. And I put ice in there. And that helps with it rising. Gives it some moisture in there. Okay, so we'll set a timer for 10 minutes. And we will recut that score just so it opens up a little more. And we'll be back.